Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
Friday for real, which is a good thing.
It is.
Actually, so everyone, if you didn't tune in yesterday, I thought yesterday was Friday and Wednesday was Thursday. And the crazy thing is I actually went to an appointment Wednesday afternoon that was scheduled for Thursday afternoon, and the guy never said, hey, you're a day early. And I was like, and then when I talked to him last night, I'm like, why didn't you say anything? He was like, well, hey.
You're already here. Yeah.
But I had a free extra afternoon, which is good.
Yeah.
So,
Always
spent
nice.
the day cleaning and making dinner for my husband. So that's always good. Happy Friday to you, Tyler. And
Happy Friday.
Boy, what a Friday it is.
Oh, man. It's already off to an exciting start all across the board in every facet of life. America, West Bloomfield, just our general operations. It's already a wild day, Ronnie, and I can't imagine it getting any wilder, but I'm certain it's going to.
We are just over 30 days out from the election, and of course by now everyone has heard the news that the president tweeted out just around 1 a.m. this morning that he and the First Lady have tested positive for the coronavirus, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So that is how we are all starting off our Friday. It would have been interesting to have the Dr. Trombone from the Oakland University on with us. He was on with us yesterday.
Yeah.
I would like to have him today. Maybe we should do a quick phone call, like a lifeline phone call, because he said every day is a new day and it gets crazier every day. And I think
Dr. Trombone walked us right into that one.
He
really
did. He did. So that's going to be interesting. I will say though, Tyler, I did something yesterday that I said I would never do again.
No.
Don't you want to know?
I do.
You're on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned.
I got sucked into purchasing another Apple product. I have been a die-hard Apple person, but I am tired of having to replace my devices every couple years.
That's how they get you.
So between my Apple Watch, my 2 iPads, my MacBook, it's constant. And so my watch broke. First it was my iPad. And it couldn't be fixed. And that's my second iPad. So, I learned don't do the updates. So I haven't been doing my updates on anything. Well, yesterday my watch broke, and it was a legacy watch, which is the polite way of saying it's old.
Yeah.
It couldn't be fixed. And so I've been going without, and I'm ready to make the jump to Samsung, but I still have my Mac. I still have all these other things, and it's the AirDrop. I like to be able to AirDrop because I edit video and this, that, and the other. But I've been without my Apple Watch, and I broke down yesterday, and I got a new one. But it was like, I also have the AirPods, and I lost one AirPod. So it's like the universe is sending me the signs, stop buying Apple. But yet here I am. It's an abusive relationship, and I just keep falling for it. Tyler, are you an Apple person?
I'm kind of a 50-50 person. I'm Android. My phone's an Android, and then I use Apple for video because it's better for video editing than most general PCs, unless you do a build. So other than that, I'm about 50-50.
I will say my husband he's Android, and he has the Samsung phone. Like the camera on that thing is so incredible. It's so much better than Apple. But here I am, sucked into Apple yet once again, and I'm sure I am not the only one.
Probably not.
And every year or two I say, I'm going to stop. This is the year I'm going to stop. So if my watch keeps going off, I'm sorry, I haven't fully set it back up yet. So I think I turned off the notifications, though, at least the chime for everyone. But, but I will say I had while yesterday I did something I never thought I would do again, and that's by buying the Apple product, I did feel like I hit the jackpot. And that's because I found my favorite wipes.
Oh.
Purell wipes, these are my, I love these things, even before the pandemic. And these little packets were hard to find. And so usually you can find them at Target. And then I started buying them on Amazon. And then the pandemic hit and you couldn't get them. Couldn't get them.
Tough to find.
I found some in Target.
Oh.
I was so excited.
You gotta lock those away in like a secret bunker.
I know
Yeah.
they must, but to be able to get Purell, like a name brand thing,
Tough.
again.
Tough stuff.
So I get in before Tyler and Jake, and they don't know it, but I go in and I disinfect this entire building every morning. So today, to be able to wipe down everything with a name brand wipe instead of my little baby wipes over here was exciting.
Yeah, we're big kids now.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, and every little thing we have to find gratitude in.
We do.
And being able to find my Purell wipes gave me gratitude. So happy Friday. Find gratitude in this Friday. Even though it's a little bit chilly out there, find gratitude. But I will say, Tyler, it's been a great week, though.
It has.
We've had a lot of good guests on, and that continues today. So I'm excited. We're going to have on Cranbrook House and Gardens, as well as the Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. We'll be speaking with the Secretary of State of Michigan. I do have some questions for her because I'm tired of getting my absentee ballot applications in the mail. I'm going to vote in person. If I want my absentee ballot, I would have applied for one. And if you're going to send me one, send one. You don't need to send me 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
You know? That's
Just
my
wanna make
tax
sure people
dollars.
vote, yes.
Stop wasting my tax dollars.
It's a lot of mail.
And then the Student Undivided, they are having their Black Lives Matter protest tonight in Kegel and Sylvan. I've actually had a lot of questions about them from some of my neighbors and the people here in Kegel, so we'll ask them all about their protest coming up tonight. Jessica Cooper, the Oakland County Prosecutor, I believe this is the first time she's going to be on the show.
It is.
Tyler.
It is. Yeah.
So it'd be good to check in with her. The courts are still kind of crazy times in the courts right now.
They are.
So we'll check in with the Oakland County Prosecutor and see how things are going over at the prosecutor's office and the changes that they made and when they think they're going to start having some in-courthouse procedures again. So a lot going on here at the Oakland County Megacast, but real quickly, if you want to head over to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus each and every morning. We do put up the latest headlines for you. And of course, everyone woke up to this news. President Donald Trump said that he and the First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for coronavirus. Of course, it's a stunning announcement that plunges the country deeper into uncertainty just a month before the presidential election. Trump said in a tweet, Twitter, once again, everything comes out of a tweet for the president. He and Mrs. Trump were quarantining. The White House physician said the president is expected to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering. Trump's announcement came hours after he confirmed that Hope Hicks, one of his most trusted and longest-serving aides, had been diagnosed with the virus on Thursday. The big thing going on right now is trying to do the contact tracing. Who have they been in contact with over the past however many days, because he has been on the road?
Yeah, and so many people that are close to Donald Trump were on the road with him, and a lot of those people do end up working in the White House or being in close contact with people that do work in the White House, which is why anytime that someone in the White House on that staff that's even within somewhat close proximity on site as Donald Trump, the President of the United States, they're going to immediately test him and test the first family. And this is one of the occasions where that test did come back positive. A lot of speculation about whether or not he's going to continue to carry out his duties long term, because he is in that category of people that are at a high risk for more severe symptoms. And there's no indication of that right now. And really, unless it's a situation where he is so sick that he cannot carry out the day-to-day duties, Donald Trump's going to continue to be president, and Mike Pence is going to continue to be vice president. They'll probably be a lot more separated for a while, just because Vice President Pence and his family, of course, have tested negative, and you want to maintain that continuity of government should something go wrong with COVID-19 and the president. But all indications as of now are that it's going to be fine. There is no 25th Amendment situation in process.
Michigan's Governor Whitmer did send out her well wishes to the president and the First Lady a little bit ago as well. No secret that they're not the best of friends, the president and the governor of Michigan, but she herself saying, hey, we wish you the best in your recovery. They're not exactly saying what symptoms they have or if they have any symptoms at this point in time, no official word. However, but the governor taking this moment to also remind people to continue to wear a mask. Also on CivicCenterTV.com, new funding is kicking in for unemployed Michigan workers nearing the end of their benefit period. Michigan's extended benefit program has been triggered, allowing people to get an extra 20 weeks of state unemployment benefits. The maximum amount a worker can receive per week in state unemployment is $362. The extra 20 weeks brings the total to 59 weeks. And while we are starting to see a recovery in the economy, so many people still do need that help from our government because this pandemic is not over. It's impacting so many businesses. And the other hard part about this is you have so many businesses that actually need workers, but they typically are frontline, lower paying jobs. And for them, they can't get enough workers, but there are other people and other jobs that are still being impacted. We talked about the airline industry yesterday, where they're still being laid off as well. So, a lot going on with the economy.
Yeah, a lot going on, and those extra benefits go a long way for a lot of people that are on the fringes of barely holding on to their job. Maybe they're working very part-time instead of full-time, and because they're hourly and their companies are trying to limit how much payroll they're sending out so they can keep their doors open and continue to employ these people. Or maybe they have been recently laid off and they did work in the airline industry. Detroit's not necessarily a major hub for any of the big airlines, but it is a place that a lot of airlines do have a lot of crossover, and it is a huge international entry point hub into the United States and an exit point. So a lot of people are going through there. There's a lot of staff, and those industries being hurt and continuing to be hurt as time goes on and this pandemic continues to take a financial toll. That extra money goes a long way for those employees.
It really does. It's what, in some cases, keeps food on the table.
Exactly.
DeVos is not going to appeal the court decision over private school funding. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos won't appeal a court ruling that annuls an interim final department rule requiring K-12 public schools to share federal CARES Act relief funding with private schools. The department strongly but respectfully disagrees with the ruling, DeVos wrote in a letter saying, however, we respect the rule of law and will enforce the law. The department will not appeal these rulings. Now, if you remember back in the beginning of this, a coalition argued the department stripped public schools of crucial federal funding provided under the CARES Act. That's been an ongoing debate. Michigan Attorney General joined some of the other attorney generals across the state to fight this issue, and this is the latest ruling. So it appears as if they've come to a conclusion, and we're going to move on from this.
Yeah, it seemed like the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, and their Secretary, Betsy DeVos, had tried to take the liberty of their own interpretation of the CARES Act funding dollars. Of course, got major pushback. And after months of that going on, maybe made the decision that what's best for schools isn't to go by my interpretation, but to get this money out and moving instead of delaying it for a ruling on a case that may not be entirely necessary. So a little bit of compromise, a little bit of compromise there from probably the DeVos's office, and a nice victory as well for the attorneys general that were fighting that decision making from the U.S. Department of Education.
You'll find those stories and so much more over on CivicCenterTV.com. Click on coronavirus, and you'll also notice at the top of the page we put links to some resources for you to be able to check out throughout the day, because this news continues to change day by day, and in some cases hour by hour. So you can find CDC resources, the state of Michigan, Oakland County, as well as links to each and every one of our local communities here in the greater Oakland County area. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and then when we come back, we're going to be checking in with the Cranbrook House and Gardens, see how they're doing in the middle of this pandemic. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, My name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19.
Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
If one thing this pandemic has taught us, it's to explore all of the assets within our own backyard. And I think so many people understand when we hear the word Cranbrook, we just immediately think it goes about the school. But there is so much more to Cranbrook than just the school in Bloomfield Hills. So let's go ahead and bring in Eric Franchy. He's the public relations manager at the Cranbrook House and Gardens. Eric, you have one of the most beautiful backdrops we've seen in a while. How are you on this Friday?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you?
We're great. So for those that don't understand that this is right here in Metro Detroit, give us the backdrop on the House and Gardens.
Sure. So Cranbrook House and Gardens was the former estate of the Cranbrook Educational Community's founders, George Go Booth and Ellen Scripps Booth. The Booths purchased the Cranbrook property back in 1904. At that time, it was just a rundown 174-acre farm here in rural Bloomfield Hills. And over the course of the next about 4 decades, they would oversee the planting of about 100,000 trees, the implementation of our gardens, reflecting pools, a Greek theater, the development of our educational art and science institutions, and ultimately built up Cranbrook into the 319-acre National Historic Landmark campus that we have here today. So for Cranbrook House, they turned to Detroit architect Albert Kahn, who would design for them an English Tudor arts and crafts style estate. And the Booths would furnish their home with the finest decorative and fine arts through the leading artists and studios of the time. And today, Cranbrook House is actually the oldest surviving manor home in the Metro Detroit region that's open to the public for touring. And then surrounding Cranbrook House, there's a 40-acre site that we refer to as Cranbrook Gardens. So throughout the gardens, there's extensive plantings, lakes, streams, sculptures, and fountains.
You know, it's so funny. I was reading on the history of Cranbrook House, and back in the day, because they were living in Detroit, this was considered the country way out there in Bloomfield Hills.
Absolutely. It took them actually at the time originally about 2 hours to travel up here from their home in Detroit.
Wow, that's amazing. So how is it working with tours right now? Are they open to the public? Do you have to make an appointment? How is that working?
Yeah, so we've had to make a lot of transitions. Specifically at Cranbrook House, we weren't unfortunately able to reopen the house this season for touring. Typically, we offer tours June through October, but just as a overabundance of caution for the safety of our visitors, our volunteers, as well as the staff, our second and third floors of the home are currently used for kind of the educational hub of the administrative staff. So we didn't reopen Cranbrook House this season, but we did open up the gardens over this summer, and reservations are not required to see the gardens, and admission is actually completely free. We have 4 generous sponsors, PNC Bank, All Seasons Independent Living, Fleur Detroit, and Robert's Restaurant Group, who have generously covered the cost of admission. So visitors are welcome to join us every day from 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily to see the gardens here at Cranbrook.
And I want to give you a big congratulations because I know that you were awarded the TripAdvisor's 2020 Traveler's Choice Award. My niece and nephew went to school at Cranbrook, so I'm familiar with the gardens and the area there. It really is a beautiful spot for people to go and visit. And if anything else, just to escape the craziness that's going on in our world right now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We were super excited and obviously very honored to receive such recognition. The TripAdvisor Traveler's Choice Award, for those who don't know, it recognizes accommodations, attractions, and other institutions who consistently receive high reviews on TripAdvisor's site and actually are ranked in the top 10% on the site worldwide. So we're very pleased to receive such a recognition, especially as you said during this current time. We're so pleased to see the number of visitors that are coming out and making use of this special space, and it's kind of actually really a goal accomplished, I think, because when the Booths purchased the property back in the early 1900s, like we mentioned, their goal was just to have it as kind of a summer retreat for them, kind of a place to escape their busy city life. The Booths worked in publishing. Ellen Scripps' father was James Scripps, who had started the Detroit Evening News, which would become the Detroit News. And George Booth, when he married into the family, would end up taking over as publisher. So really, it was just a place to escape busy city life. So we're glad that visitors are still doing the same thing and using the property to really enjoy the restorative properties of nature.
Eric Franchy with us. He is the Public Relations Manager at the Cranbrook House and Gardens, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. All throughout the local area, a great way to engage with nature and history, as we often do with our Facebook partner, West Bloomfield Parks, today joining us via Facebook Live for the entirety of the show. And Eric, there's so much variety, both for those that are enjoying exploring history and those who have an interest in plants and in nature and in botany, with a variety of different gardens. The Sunken Garden, you got the herb garden, you got a Japanese garden, daffodil garden. How much variety is there for people of all different interests to explore something new, or even something that they haven't really had interest in before and maybe can gain some interest in now?
You know, I think that's a great question, and I think it's really one of the biggest benefits, I think, of the gardens is that they really appeal to everyone. For the gardening enthusiast who's looking to learn more about gardening or maybe find inspiration for their own garden, to just somebody who's interested in exploring the great outdoors. I think there really is something here for everyone. And really, I've been here over 8.5 years myself, and I still discover new things every day. But there's just a broad variety. We have over 20 different types of gardens surrounding Cranbrook House. A couple I'll mention. Behind me, you can see the Sunken Garden, and this is an area that originally was used as a vegetable garden for the Booths. They would use it to feed the family. They lived at Cranbrook House with their 5 children, as well as a lot of the gardeners and other staff that were living and working on the estate. So they had lowered this garden to kind of extend the growing season here in Michigan. But later would transform it into a flower garden, and that's how we use it today. So you can kind of see a little bit behind me maybe that there's these 4 rows in the center. These are planted with annuals, so those are plants that, unlike your perennials, they don't return on their own every year. And the design of these changes every single year. We have our conservatory greenhouse co-chair, Paul Nelson, who's a retired project engineer, that will actually design and kind of blueprint what the design will look like using different color combinations, plant varieties to create these stunning works of botanical art. And then typically this garden is planted every year right after Memorial Day weekend with a team of volunteers. But this particular year, we used over 4,000, a combination of 4,000 white begonia, 3 different varieties of sun patience, and then some Victoria blue salvia to create this really spectacular display. And then this is all kind of framed quite nicely by 2 long beds along the fieldstone walls that are planted in a combination of both perennials and annuals. But for visitors that would like to see the Sunken Garden this year, I do have to encourage you to plan a visit actually within the next week because as we're nearing the end of our gardening season here, we will be pulling this particular bed, the annuals, on October 8th. So plan a visit by October 7th. But elsewhere around the gardens, as you mentioned, we do have a Japanese garden. And that's actually one of the oldest such gardens in North America, dating back to about 1915. And it's an area that's currently being revitalized under the direction of Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research, with goals of returning it to its kind of historical roots, but also making it more authentic as a Japanese garden. And one of the areas that I'm really excited to see in the plans, they're working to make the paths more accessible.
Okay, Eric, I have to tell you. I have the blackest thumb out of anyone. And I try. I go into every spring with the greatest intentions. I will say I'm super proud this year because our hydrangea plants did make it. And I talk to them every single day. But when I go into a garden and I see that beautiful backdrop that you're in front of, and I think, oh, I'm going to do something like that. And then it never turns out. They always die. First, how many staff members do you have assigned to this? It's something for me just to remember, did I water them today? But also, what secrets can you give? Because for people who are doing annuals every year or perennials, are there any programs or I try to go on YouTube and watch these people and how they plant and some secrets so that we could take some of that inspiration and move it into our own backyard. Any tips that you could share with us?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll say you're not alone. I still often identify plants by their colors. But the incredible thing, though, about Cranbrook Gardens is actually it's, for the most part, all maintained by our volunteers. We have a membership of about 300, and of that, I would say probably around 100 that are active as gardeners. And then there's just 2 seasonal part-time staff that assist those volunteers. But collectively, these volunteers will log over 10,000 hours of service every year working in the gardens,
wow,
leading tours of Cranbrook House and helping on special events. But as far as learning more about gardening, one takeaway is always that you have to find what works for you, what works for your space, whether you're working with annuals or perennials, depending on the type of garden and the amount of sun you get. But to learn a little bit more, we always encourage people to become members, and then they can kind of get involved in our gardens and work hand in hand with our volunteers, a lot of which are actually master gardeners. We do also typically, for the last 3 years in early spring, we've partnered with an advanced master gardener in the area to offer about a 3-hour workshop that will cover a variety of topics from to really help plant your gardens and get started for the growing season with different workshops and topics that might be helpful from choosing the right plants for your garden, what tools you might need, and things of that nature. And then one of the other ways we like to help out is during our plant sales. So during those plant sales that we offer, we typically have 2 each year. There's one in our greenhouse in February, and then we offer our largest fundraisers, actually our annual spring plant sale in mid-May. At both of those opportunities, though, we encourage guests to interact with our volunteers and ask questions, and they'll do their best to provide advice so that you can hopefully plant your best garden.
So I need to become a volunteer to become an expert. And I'm wondering, so one of the things, because your garden looks absolutely amazing, which you would expect, but one thing that me and all my neighbors and so many people I've seen on social media are complaining about this year, the deer. I love them. We have a mama and 2 babies that have been visiting our neighborhood, but when they started munching on my hydrangea, I was not too happy with them, and my hostas are all gone, which at least they trimmed them down for the winter months. But any suggestions in that area?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not alone. We have the same problem here at Cranbrook in many of our gardens. Fortunately, with hostas, they're pretty hardy plants, so they do tend to come back. For instance, the garden behind me, this one is a little better suited because we have these large walls, and then there's kind of, you can't see it, but further back there's a fence that we kind of use to help keep the deer out. there are certain plant types. I'd have to check base with our volunteers, but they can recommend different types of plants that are a little bit more resistant to the deer. They're not ones that the deer look for quite as much. And then we've also ourselves in some of our gardens, not necessarily the ones that you see on a typical visit, but in our holding gardens, we've actually had some of our volunteers have built these frame structures that are kind of fenced in, and that can help keep the deer out as well.
Yeah, we took to actually drilling a hole in a bar of soap. I think it's lever soap, and hanging it. I don't know. We were on YouTube. Quickly, though, well, I diverse, but I know I'm not the only one with that problem. And there's nothing worse than watching your plants grow and babying them, and then to see the deer out there just munching away. And they're so cute, though. You don't want to disturb them. But Cranbrook is so much more than just your gardens. The entire campus is beautiful, and you have so much more to offer over there at Cranbrook. For people who have never been there before, what is available for the general public to be able to visit and to explore?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a ton here. So we're part of the Cranbrook educational community. That consists of Cranbrook Academy of Art, that's a graduate degree program. There's Cranbrook Art Museum that's open to the public, that's a contemporary museum. We have Cranbrook Institute of Science that's also open to the public, celebrating natural history here in Michigan. Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research. They manage our Cranbrook archives and also some of our historic homes, such as Saarinen House and Frank Lloyd Wright Smith House. And two of the spaces, our biggest public offerings are over at the Art Museum and the Institute of Science, and both of those reopened over the summer. The Art Museum, they reopened with new operating hours and days, and including extended hours and free admission on Thursdays. So now every week on Thursdays, visitors are welcome to join us at the Art Museum from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And they can check out, there's 3 new exhibitions over there. And then also on different days throughout the month, the Art Museum will offer family days where you can come do hands-on art making activities. They're kicking off a new virtual lecture series where you can learn about from some of our artists in residence here on campus and other educators, and a lot of activities like that. Over at the Institute of Science, that's a really cool space as well. Great for families. You can check out a full-size T-Rex skeleton that we call Black Beauty. There's mastodon, there's meteorites, you can learn about the Great Lakes, and there's really just all kinds of different things to do. And one of the ways visitors can check out both of those spaces in the near future is on October 17th, when we'll be offering a family day. So that will be an opportunity for families to come out and actually walk outdoors between both of the spaces. There'll be hands-on art making activities, as well as science experiments led by our educators. And that will run from 2 to 5 p.m. October 17th. So I recommend checking that out. And then the following weekend, October 23rd and 24th, over at the Institute of Science, they're actually taking their annual Halloween event virtual for the first time, which is pretty exciting. And that will give families the opportunity to register in advance. And then they can they'll receive activity kits that they can follow along during the event virtually with different like science experiments. I think there'll be an art activity this year too, so we recommend checking that out. Also, I'll mention that for those that are really interested in learning about the architecture here on campus, which is really incredible, all the unique architecture, but 2 historic homes that we currently are offering tours of in person through the Cranbrook Center for Collection and Research. One of them being Frank Lloyd Wright Smith House, that's actually located about a mile off campus, but it was designed for Frank Lloyd Wright for 2 school teachers around 1950. It's a Usonian home, which was designed to it was Frank Lloyd Wright's way of bringing affordable housing to the middle class. And it's really an interesting story, and kind of inspired to hear about how these 2 school teachers with their modest budgets were actually able to convince Frank Lloyd Wright to design the home of their dreams. Tours of those are offered currently Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays every weekend through the end of November at 1 p.m. And then the center also offers tours of Elio Saarinen's house, which is right here on campus near the Art Museum. And Saarinen was the first he was the head of our architecture department, as well as the first president of Cranbrook Academy of Art. and that's an Art Deco home. Tours of those are offered, again, in person Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 3:30 p.m. every weekend through the end of November. And I do want to mention, too, though, for all of these experiences, whether it's at our historic homes, at the museums, even if it's a free day or activity, registration is required in advance online, just so we can make sure we're adhering to all those health guidelines with capacity limits and other health protocols.
Eric Franchy with us. He is the Public Relations Manager at the Cranbrook House and Gardens, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Eric, before we let you go, how can people further support your operation at the House and Gardens? Where can people find more information? And is there anything else that you'd like to say today before we let you go?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. A couple things. I'll mention that for those that want to experience Cranbrook, but maybe don't have the opportunity to do so in person, we have a lot of virtual activities. Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research, at the start of the current situation, kicked off a new Live at 5 series. These are live streamed tours that are free to join on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. on the center's Instagram page and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. on the center's Facebook page. And our curator will actually take you around many different spaces on campus and share a little bit about the architecture, the history, and other stories on about Cranbrook. And again, those are free to join. If you can't join us live, still head over to our social media channels and you can check out all the archived videos. Those interested in supporting, we do rely heavily on donations, membership dues, and things of that, like all nonprofits in the area. And we definitely need assistance during this time. So to support us and to learn more about these offerings that we've been talking about, a lot of the different events, I encourage visitors to head over to www.cranbrook.edu. You can find links to our giving pages, links to each of our institutions, and really learn a lot more about campus. So again, that's cranbrook.edu. And then one other item I'll mention is we do have a free Cranbrook app. So if you just search Cranbrook on the App Store or on Google Play, it's completely free to download. Just I recommend being on a strong Wi-Fi connection, but right at the tip of your fingers, you'll then have access to a lot of self-guided tours. You can keep up to date with the events and activities that we have going on campus. And then there's also a lot of built-in interactive maps. So that's the Cranbrook app, or head to cranbrook.edu.
Eric, thank you so much for your time. You have a beautiful campus there, so we appreciate it, and we hope that people get out and enjoy what all Cranbrook has to offer, because it's so much more than just the school there.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and we hope to see you at Cranbrook soon.
Absolutely. I will say, Tyler, I have a lot of friends that walk Cranbrook in the morning. Going into the fall time with the season changes, it is stunning. It is absolutely stunning with the fall change colors. So get over to Cranbrook. It's not just a private school. It is open to the public. Take advantage of what's in our own backyard. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we're going to be switching gears just a little bit and bringing in the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce president. We always like having him on the show, but so much going on for small businesses going into the winter season. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And Step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
It is Friday. You know,
It is.
I will say, I think a lot of people don't get out to explore Cranbrook because maybe they're intimidated by the campus. But I want to let you know, I've been there multiple times. It's a beautiful campus. It's right in our backyard. Anyone is invited. So when you go up and there is a guard sitting there, you just say, hey, I'm here to explore or to walk. Just get out and enjoy nature right now. It's a different background to offer. It's a good way to escape all this craziness in our world. But one you know who needs an escape right now? Small business owners, because 6 months into this pandemic, and I really believe that they're some of the hardest hit.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, there's so much effort to try to keep them alive and keep the survival going, because we know how important small businesses are to our communities. However, it's still making it hard. Some of them are barely surviving. Some have already closed down. Let's go ahead and bring in Joe Bauman. He's the president of Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. Joe, you've had quite the job for the past 6 months. You're earning every penny that you're making. How are you this morning?
I'm doing reasonably well. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back on.
There was so much support for small businesses in the beginning, and I feel like as summer has gone on and we're 6 months into this, some of that support is starting to fade away because people are kind of getting tired of this and they're going on about living their lives. But so many of these small business owners are still struggling to stay alive. So they see their local restaurant open. What they don't understand is that local restaurant isn't serving as many people, but they still have the costs associated with being open. And in some cases that cost is increasing because they're having to do so many, accommodations for this pandemic. Is there any hope for our small businesses if this continues for another 6 months, 8 months, 9 months?
So I think what you're alluding to is what we refer to as COVID complacency. I think you're absolutely right. There was a lot of rallying calls. There was a lot of, shop small campaigns. There was the initial support from the federal government through the CARES Act and PPP grants. And that was all wonderful. And it did help a lot of small businesses stay in business. But you're absolutely right. It's currently, in the mid 40s outside. So obviously we're through our change of season and we're now into fall heading into winter. And the concern is that when cold temperatures hit and it's not as convenient to shop outdoors like in downtown Birmingham, which you see behind me, and certainly restaurants will struggle to keep additional social distance spacing and outdoor dining. So the real concern is that when people start to burrow in a little bit, when the weather turns cold, they're not going to be supporting their small businesses as much as they need to. So very much concerned.
Let's so many small businesses to kind of start with, but let's just first off the bat, we'll focus on some of the restaurants. Obviously, so many communities, especially Birmingham, has made exceptions to allow the restaurants to expand a little bit into the parking areas or make accommodations. But we are going into the winter months, and I know that some restaurants are trying to figure out ways to be able to maintain that outdoor space, but also how do you maintain an outdoor extended space but heat it to make it attractive to your patrons? Because even just as a regular person, we've been trying to find an outdoor heater for our backyard patio. You can't find some of these products anymore.
Absolutely. And many communities have extended their special uses for outdoor dining through the end of the year to try to help restaurants. But you're absolutely right. Another challenge is it costs money to winterize an outdoor space. It's not only heaters, but it's physical enclosures. I'm sure you've seen these, what they're calling the dining igloos that some people are doing now, but that all comes at a cost, a new and additional cost. And it's one that, frankly, many restaurants are struggling just to keep their doors open now. So we're encouraging our member restaurants to ramp back up their carry out and their dining to go and their family style meals that they've been doing, because we think that's going to become an increasingly important part of their business model in the winter because of the space constraints. And we would just encourage, the public and our residents to, if they're thinking about Friday night dinner, call up their favorite restaurant, order it to go. You can do curbside pickup. And that way you're helping them keep their staff employed and keeping their doors open. But it's going to be a challenge. The restaurants, again, are they're kind of right in the crosshairs of Corona. And with federal support being stalled in Washington for a second round of small business relief, it's going to be a very challenging winter. And all of us need to do whatever we can to mask up, go to the restaurants if you feel comfortable. If not, buy gift cards as gifts for friends and loved ones, and take advantage of carry out or curbside pickup.
I love those igloos because I thought they were so super cool. Last year and the year before, we saw them start to pop up in the area, but they only service so many people, and if you only have so much space, it's it's like you said, it's not cost effective for so many of these restaurants to have 30 of those outside to be able to service more people, but they are cool. But let's look at the employee side of this, because if you drive down Woodward, you drive down Orchard Lake Road, all of these small businesses, especially restaurants, have signs out, help wanted. How hard is it for these restaurants and these small businesses to get the employees that they need for their long-term survival?
It's very important. And again, it's just an additional challenge. There's a myriad reasons as to why there's the labor shortage. Number one, you have to remember that prior to the pandemic, there was a critical shortage, particularly again in the restaurant industry, of qualified workers. There had been so many restaurants that had opened that they were really just straining the available workforce. When you throw in COVID and with the unemployment situation, and at first with the $600 stimulus, now the $300 additional weekly stimulus for the unemployed, you may have heard that the governor and the legislature just announced yesterday that they're extending unemployment benefits for an additional 20 weeks. So all those employees who may be uncomfortable about working in that environment due to concerns about COVID, or having childcare issues because most kids are being taught remotely and there has to be a parent home with them. Those are all putting pressures on the labor market, and it's one that's not going to be solved anytime soon. So again, we just encourage, residents and the public that to have patience and to have kindness. The restaurants and the small businesses are doing the best they can. They know their customer service isn't up to the excellent standards that they normally provide for their guests. But we just have to all understand that we are in extraordinary times, and we would just, encourage people to mask up, follow the rules, social distance, but more importantly, to have patience when you are visiting your favorite restaurant or store, and to be kind to the employees, the frontline workers who literally are putting their health at risk to serve.
Joe Bauman with us, the president of the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Joe, we've talked a lot so far about restaurants and the ways that the colder months and the continued pandemic are going to affect their business, but we have a lot of mom and pop shops and retail in Birmingham and Bloomfield and in the local surrounding areas that are covered by other chambers as well. Similarly to restaurants, a lot of those have been able to move some of their operations outside onto the sidewalks, some even into some roadways in certain communities. How is the winter going to affect those businesses too? Because unlike some restaurants where you can have the rather expensive option of having those igloos outside, you can't necessarily do that with retail in a way that's viable and secure for that business. So how are they looking to cope with that, if they can at all?
Well, I think what you see is that many small businesses, restaurants and others, retail, have adjusted their operating hours, the number of hours they're open each week. They're doing that to try to reduce their payroll costs, but also to align their hours with the available staff that they have. And so you may have had a store that was open from 9 to 9, 7 days a week. Now they might be open from 12 to 6, 5 days a week. So that's one thing that they're trying to do. The other thing that they're doing, and we are encouraging this for sure, is many of the retailers have bolstered their own online website sales, point of sale process, and where you can actually go on their website and make purchases and then again come and pick them up curbside. We were running a campaign that was called Put Down Your Mouse. That was really more targeted toward the national online retailers that are really eating into the success of Main Street retail. But we do want you to go to your favorite local store and go on their website and peruse their offerings and make your purchases and pick them up or have them delivered to your house. So it's okay to shop with your mouse as long as you're doing it shopping local.
That's a good campaign. I will say it's so hard because when you click online, there are so many options out there. And if you don't know the name of that local little store, it makes it hard to find it. So what advice are you giving to some of these smaller shops and smaller businesses about being creative and cutting through the noise of online to get themselves recognized?
So we have been very aggressively using social media to shine the spotlight on our member businesses, encouraging them to be very active on their own social media platforms, but also using the Chamber's platform because we probably have a greater reach than they do with their own list of who receives their social media. So tagging us, resharing stuff, retweeting stuff, and really just trying to stay as visible as you can on social media is one thing that they can do, and we encourage them to continue to do. And, that's the same for shoppers. You can use the Chamber's website to get a list of businesses in the communities. You can go to the Birmingham Shopping District, Enjoy Birmingham, to get that same list. So if you're looking for something in particular or you're just wondering what's out there, we'll do that. I do want to mention one silver lining. So amidst the pandemic, downtown Birmingham did welcome a brand new business, Johnny Was, which is a high-end women's clothing store. They had their grand opening about a week and a half ago, and we'll be doing a grand opening and a ribbon cutting for them on October 8th. So even in the middle of the pandemic, people are still opening new businesses, and we need to support them more than ever.
Absolutely. And, Joe, one thing was always one of my favorite things to do in Birmingham was I met up with my girlfriends. We went to dinner. We went to the cupcake shop, snuck in cupcakes, and went to the movies. Not that that might be illegal, but but we liked our cupcakes over at the cupcake shop. And how exciting is it to actually be able to have the theaters reopen there in downtown Birmingham? And do you think it's going to be a boost for some of the restaurants and other businesses in the area?
It's a huge boost. Number one, obviously the Birmingham Theater is behind me, but also the Imagine Birmingham. The ownerships have been extremely patient and, as they've waited to get the go-ahead to reopen. And even with the limits on occupancy, anything that's going to bring foot traffic to the Central Business District, and that's the same with, the Maple Theater, at Maple and Telegraph, anything that will bring people into town to do just what you said. Hopefully they're not just going to go see a movie. They're going to, dine somewhere before or after. They're going to grab a snack or they're going to have a cocktail at one of the area restaurants. So It's a huge shot in the arm. I do want to mention as well that, as I've mentioned here before, Maple Road right through downtown Birmingham has been closed since April for a total reconstruction. That project is scheduled to reopen the stretch between Old Woodward and Woodward on October 15th, the rest of the road by the end of October. So with the theaters opening and with Maple Road being reopened, we're really hoping that those are going to be drivers to get more people in downtown Birmingham and support the local businesses.
Joe Bauman with us, the president of the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. And Joe, obviously throughout this entire pandemic, business education has been a crucial aspect of chambers of commerce in helping these businesses stay alive and partner with one another strategically to support each other. How are those efforts being continued in your chamber, and what have been the results of those?
So we have really strengthened our partnership through our statewide chamber association, the Michigan Association of Chamber Professionals, which actually beginning January 1st, I will have the privilege of being the chair of the board for that organization. And so what it allows chambers to do is to share information, share knowledge, share best practices from all over the state of Michigan. We always say that the best idea is the one that's always stolen, that you don't have to remake entirely yourself. And chambers in all kinds of trade associations have been incredibly generous with one another in sharing, information and sharing best practices. That, along with the State Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we've really done a better job of educating ourselves on all the loan programs that have been out there, the grant programs, PPP. Obviously, we don't have a physical presence in Washington, but through our affiliation with the U.S. Chamber, we have boots on the ground there. And as soon as legislation is considered, approved, passed, modified, we can pass that along. And that proved critically important through the whole first round of the PPP grants, because it's been well documented. A lot of businesses, small businesses in particular, got turned away by their lenders when they went to apply for grants. And so we were able to use the knowledge that we had, the database that we had, and then we started partnering our member businesses with local credit unions and local community-based banks that really stood up and met the challenge and helped that entire process. So, we have a very robust COVID-related resource page on our website, bbcc.com. And really that's been our critical role through this whole process, is trying to bring the most accurate, up-to-date information we can to our members, because they're working 24/7 to try to stay in business. They may not have an opportunity to stay up to date on all the different grants and loan programs that are available to them. That's our job, and we've been trying our best to make sure to give them that information in a timely manner.
Yeah, Joe, I will say for so many of these small businesses, plus things have been changing so rapidly. So organizations such as yours and so many of the other chambers have really been a lifeline to so many of these small businesses, especially in the beginning, because getting some of those loans was just a nightmare. And if you weren't a big organization, then even though it was for small businesses, but for the smaller, businesses with 1, 2, 3, 4 employees, it was almost impossible to navigate without the help of your organization and so many others such as yours. Before we leave you, I will say I am so happy that the construction is wrapping up, because it is a nightmare. And when you go through that area, you're like, oh, do I really need this? Or you park all the way down by the farmer's market and then, walk up and try to explore things that way. But that those parking spots can be snagged pretty quickly. So I think it's going to be great for the Birmingham area for that construction to wrap up. Before we let you go, though, we're going into the fall season. Any fun things coming up? Can you leave us on a happy note for downtown Birmingham and the area?
Well, as much as I'd like to, unfortunately, we did have to cancel our Halloween parade and pumpkin patch event this year, which is always at the end of October. However, I do know that the city is aggressively moving, trying to maintain as many as the holiday events as they can. The winter market will go on this year, and Santa will arrive in downtown Birmingham. How that's going to work with social distancing, we're not really quite sure yet, but there will be holiday activities, there will be fall activities. They're just going to look a little differently than what maybe all of us are used to. So again, patience and kindness will rule the day, and will be greatly appreciated by all of the frontline workers who really step up and give all the things that they do so we can have what we have.
Joe Bauman with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. We always appreciate your time. And like you said, going into the holiday season, buy that gift card maybe to someone's favorite restaurant. You can save a mom and a dad that is stressed out on trying to homeschool their kids right now, the effort of trying to come up with dinner and help out a local restaurant as well. And there are so many great little shops in downtown Birmingham to get those specialized gifts. So we appreciate your time. Any last words of wisdom that you want to share with our listeners and viewers before we let you go?
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come back on again. It's always a pleasure to do so. I do want to mention one thing that we're doing at the Chamber. So, this whole process has been a struggle for chambers of commerce ourselves in terms of being able to generate revenue. But we are very mindful of the impact it's having on our friends in the nonprofit world, and particularly the charitable world. The Chamber has a nonprofit group that is about 65 strong of local Oakland-based charities that work tirelessly to help those who are the most vulnerable. We have declared October Nonprofit Month, and what we're doing is every day in the month, we are spotlighting one or two of our local charities, shining the light on the great works that they do, and encouraging people to support them through their charitable efforts and fundraising. So we'll be blasting that out on social media. We started on the 1st. We'll go the whole month and then culminate on the 21st, which is our annual community leadership breakfast and nonprofit showcase. So we're trying to help those who need help because we are very grateful for all of the organizations and all of our members that continue to support the Chamber.
That is such a good thing. It's a great thing that you're doing. I know my sister has a nonprofit, and they're struggling right now as well. This is 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Quickly, Joe, I should have asked you this earlier. If we have a small business or maybe an independent contractor out there that is struggling right now, and maybe they feel like they don't have the funds to be able to join the Chamber, what is the cost of your services? And for those that maybe aren't ready to sign a commitment with being a Chamber member, do you have just some virtual tutorials or something of that nature that you could share with those that aren't members?
Absolutely. So we have felt that it's critically important during this time to help as many businesses as we can, regardless of whether they're members of the Chamber. Our mission and our vision is to support the entire local business community, not just our members. So anybody has access to our website. You can go on all the resource pages. They're all open platform. We're not charging for anything for that. In terms of joining the Chamber, we've gotten very creative again in trying to help businesses to be able to make it more affordable. You can break up your payments into quarterly payments. You can sign up for 12 monthly payments through an ACH account. So we're working with all of our businesses because we know that they need our services. They just might not be in the best financial position to do it. Fortunately, through the generosity of Oakland County, we're going to be launching quickly an opportunity where we will be able to subsidize to some point a membership for their first 6 months so they can kind of kick the tires and see if the Chamber's a good fit for them. So I would just encourage them to contact me, myself. It's Joe B, Joeb at bbcc.com. Go on our website and, we'll do whatever we can to help them get the information that they're looking for and try to help them be successful.
It's always great having you here on the Oakland County Megacast. We learn so much when you join us. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all the hard work you and your team are doing to try to help the small businesses survive here in the Oakland County area. We wish you a happy weekend.
Thank you. Mask up, shop local.
Shop local. There you go. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. This is CivicCenterTV.com, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. And, of course, you can catch us on cable, or Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, here in the Civic Center TV studios, 89.3 in the West Bloomfield area. Happy Friday to everyone. Tyler, this is Friday. That means Friday night under the lights. Football night for you and the team here at Civic Center TV.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, too. Clarkson's coming in having played a really nice season so far. They are pretty loaded with talent, much like West Bloomfield and its first two opponents as well. Definitely two of the top 5 players in the state are on their interior on offense and defense. On their offensive line, of course, Mark, the former Lion, Mark Spindler's son, Rocco, is on the offensive and defensive line for the Clarkston Wolves, as is another incredible player in Garrett Dellinger, who helps that interior line. And Cole Dellinger, his brother, also is really talented as well. And then second-year starting quarterback, one of the best pocket passers in the OAA Red and really in southeastern Michigan, and Mike DePilo. Ethan Clark's been having a really good season so far for them. He's their running back, and they got some good weapons in the receiving game. A very Rob Gronkowski-like tight end on their squad that gets a lot of touches in the passing game. So it's going to be tough for West Bloomfield. It's going to be a really good game. And it's going to be televised on Fox Sports Detroit. We'll, of course, have our radio broadcast, which will be far better. And but it will be on Fox Sports Detroit, which is why that game is being delayed. It is starting at 7:30 p.m. tonight instead of 7 o'clock.
And also for the people that know, if you can't get 89.3, you can actually log into CivicCenterTV.com, even if you're all across the country, because you got to remember there are so many parents, grandparents, and uncles that don't live locally. This is a great way for them to see and hear and listen to the game.
Yeah, we like to provide as many outlets as we possibly can for local and non-local people that want to tune in and listen to these away games and watch and listen to these home games. So today we have, of course, our broadcast on 89.3 Lakes FM, your home for West Bloomfield Laker football. But we're also going to be broadcasting the football game on our TV channel. We pick up the audio. We just have a rolling graphic on the TV side for these away games, but all of our audio from the radio broadcast of the game will be on Civic Center TV, so you can watch from the comfort of your home if you have Comcast on Channel 15 and AT&T in their local community and public access stations on their guide on Channel 99. But you can also watch and listen. You can also listen online on civiccentertv.com and on lakesfm.com, which is our 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week live radio stream. So plenty of opportunity for you, whether you're on the road, at home, or somewhere else around the world. You can listen to Laker football tonight. 7:30 start when they play the Clarkston Wolves. It's going to be a big game for both of these teams, looking to take control of the OAA Red Division and put themselves in the driver's seat for a really nice spot in the playoff lineup.
So many people excited to have high school sports, high school football back on the gridiron again. You know what? We're just over 30 days away from the election. And I have been voting ever since I was able to vote at 18. It was such an exciting time for me to be able to actually register and go in to vote for my very first time. I remember my parents taking me in when I was a little kid with them to vote, or in our elementary school, I remember we were a polling place, and it was always like, shh, be quiet. They're coming in to vote. I don't know why you had to be so quiet for people to be able to vote. But
you know how tough it is for me to stay quiet. That was really tough.
I know, but it's always an exciting time. I love being able to actually walk in and cast my ballot as well. And we're just 30 days out from the election here in the state of Michigan, and so much attention is being put on the state of Michigan. Of course, this is going to be the first general election in which we do have the mail-in vote as well. So we're excited to be joined this morning on the Oakland County Megacast with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. We've had you on the show before. Welcome back to the Megacast. Thank you for taking time to be with us.
Thank you for having me. Great to be back.
So much attention is on Michigan right now. If I am going to vote by mail, how secure is my vote?
Well, importantly, we must make sure everyone knows it indeed is very secure for multiple reasons. But at the top of line, it's secure because no ballot is counted that is sent through the mail unless it has a signature outside on the envelope that matches the signature of the voter on file. That is a time-tested key security feature that states like Washington and many others have had in place for years, where they've seen infinitesimal levels of fraud. And it also ensures, under the new law that requires clerks check in with a voter if a signature is missing or doesn't match, that we catch any irregularities and we ensure that every valid vote and only valid votes count.
We talk a lot about voter fraud, or we're hearing so much about voter fraud right now. We've had enough professors on the show here. Is this really going to be a widespread problem here in the state of Michigan?
Well, no, and it never has been. It's not been an issue in Michigan or anywhere else. And the only time we really hear about it is as a scare tactic, in my view, designed to sow seeds of doubt, wrongfully so, amongst our electorate about their vote and the sanctity of our process. The truth is, we've got a well-built election security system. When I took office, I actually launched our state's first ever election security task force, and among other things, hired our first full-time election security director. And citizens can see everything we've done to improve the security of the process and protect their vote at michigan.gov/election security, because the work is ongoing. Every day we're doing something to secure the vote. But importantly, we're talking to experts nationally and here in our state, conferring with them to implement best practices and prioritizing the security of the process every step of the way.
On that note, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson with us on the Oakland County Megacast. There's also been a lot of discussion in the news recently about encouragement of poll watchers at the local polls that maybe are going to be a little more intimidating than normal. What work has your office been doing with local clerks to ensure that when voters go to the polls, they aren't going to feel feelings of intimidation, but at the same time, those poll watchers who do have a right to fill that role are able to do what they feel is necessary?
Well, that's exactly right. It's an important balance to set, prioritizing transparency and making sure that interested citizens who want to observe the process have that right to do so from a designated area in a polling place where they're not permitted to speak with voters. And if anyone does cross the line and become disruptive, they'll be removed immediately. The Attorney General and I have been working closely with law enforcement at the Michigan state level, as well as all across the state at the local level, to ensure they're prepared to enforce those provisions on Election Day, because we don't want any voter to be intimidated or wrongfully treated or harassed at a precinct on Election Day when they're simply trying to exercise their right to vote.
Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, Jocelyn Benson, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. I have a question for you, and I know a lot of other people from my social media have been asking the same thing. We keep getting the Michigan absent voter ballot application in the mail. I think between my husband and I, we've received like 6 or 8 of them over the past few weeks. I've never applied for one. I'm a person, and he is as well, that we want to actually vote in person. Why is there the push to get these applications out to people? And also we're hearing about people that are getting these applications that no longer live in the state of Michigan. So what is the push, and how updated are your voter rolls? And I want to let you know, save your 20 cents. Don't mail it to us again. We're going to vote in person.
Well, let's roll it back a little bit, because our office sent out applications in May and June, and we haven't done that since. Now, a number of other groups have, and I think it's important for citizens to be aware of the difference of a mailing that comes from the state, or comes from their local clerk, or comes from a nonpartisan organization or political party. Now, our goal back in the spring was to ensure that every citizen had access to information on how to request to vote from home if indeed they wanted to exercise their right to do so. And of course, citizens have the option as well to vote in person or early at their clerk's office. Our job is to make sure that citizens know about those options. And certainly, we're advising and encouraging all those non-government organizations and political organizations to ensure voters are educated. But it's really, I know, challenging for many voters at this time, where there's so much noise and so much rhetoric and so much misinformation coming into our state about the voting process, to have to deal with many mailings from non-government organizations to that effect. That said, applications are simply that, and no one gets a ballot unless the signature on their application matches the signature that is on file in their voter registration database. And importantly, even if someone submits multiple applications, only one ballot is sent to them. And of course, we already talked about the security provisions in the ballots themselves. So I'm proud that in Michigan, we've got a number of time-tested security provisions in place and protocols that ensures the integrity of the process. And I encourage you all to spread the truthful information, the accurate information about the process, in the light of the fact that many politicians locally and nationally will be trying to confuse voters about those very rights that we need to ensure, regardless of how someone casts their vote is counted.
So can you tell us, how are some of these third-party groups getting the voter rolls, and when were they last updated here in the state of Michigan?
Well, notably, prior to our mailing in the spring, it had been 10 years before any Secretary of State had done a mailing to update and improve the accuracy of their voter rolls. So one of the benefits of what we have done is that as we have voters comply with protocol and procedures and let us know if they receive an application in error, that actually lets us update and increase the accuracy of the rolls, which is what our staff at the Bureau of Elections has been doing with clerks for the past several months. Now, that said, voter data is public information. That is public data that is available. It's why any candidate can go into their clerk's office and get a list of those registered to vote and contact them with information about their campaign. That has happened in campaigns, for decades. So that information is public and accessible, and it's part of one of the transparency provisions of state law. But that's why we all get on lists, whether it's on a voter list or other lists that get unsolicited information. But certainly it's important to validate the source and see where it's coming from. And notably, if you get anything in the mail or see anything on social media that seems wrong, let us know, because our focus is also on correcting misinformation that we know is only increasing in frequency and volume in the weeks ahead. Misinformation@michigan.gov is an email address we have set up to help us hear from voters when they hear information that seems wrong, so that we can correct them and give them accurate information about their rights.
So just to be clear to so many of our listeners and viewers out there, if you receive an absentee ballot application for the person who lived at your house maybe prior to you, for John Smith, it's not okay for you to go ahead and fill it out and vote twice under someone else's name. Can you talk about the penalties for someone who does do such a thing?
Well, certainly that would be illegal. And that's why we encourage citizens to not break the law. And instead, if they get an application addressed to someone else, whether it comes from their clerk or whether it comes from a non-government organization, or if it came from the state back in the spring, let us know so that we can update our files accordingly. That's one of the ways we get information about when citizens have moved or passed away or are no longer eligible to vote. And of course, know that if you vote in someone else's name or forge someone's signature, we will catch it and we will investigate. And the Attorney General has already launched an investigation into a credible allegation to that end. We take that very seriously, and we want to ensure that we're protecting the integrity of the process. But certainly that shows how even if someone tries to break the law through forging someone else's name and submitting an application on their behalf, we will catch it as we have and ensure that the full force of law is met to provide accountability.
Jocelyn Benson with us. She is the Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Jocelyn Benson, recent news, some positive news for local clerks and for the election process, allowing local clerks to begin the process of filing those absentee ballots as they're coming in without counting them the day before the election for a set amount of hours. Can you talk a little bit about how that does help the election process move along more efficiently, and does more need to be done to make that process even more efficient, knowing that there's going to be such an influx of absentee voting in this upcoming election in November?
Well, it's certainly a step in the right direction that recognizes, this year we're going to have likely more than 3 million citizens choose to vote from home on both sides of the political spectrum. And that's what we're seeing already, is 2.5 million citizens have exercised that right in this election, for this fall's election. So knowing that, and knowing that our current law does not allow the tabulation of ballots until 7 a.m. on election day, unlike other states, those ballots cannot begin to be tabulated until then, and it was going to take more than 12 or 13 hours, or perhaps even a little bit more than that, to go through all those ballots securely and effectively and ensure they're accurately tabulated. Now, that said, recent legislation gave some clerks in larger communities 10 extra hours on Monday to begin opening envelopes and preparing ballots to be tabulated. Again, that's a great step in the right direction, but it's not going to solve the issue of taking a long time beginning on election day to count and process those ballots. At this point, our priority is accuracy and security. We have, in some cases, doubled or tripled the number of ballot tabulators our local clerks will have in order to increase their capacity to manage and tabulate and process more ballots per hour once they're able to. And so we hope that'll improve the efficiency of the process, but we're also cautioning people to be patient as we work through and ensure that our results of our elections, once announced, are an accurate reflection of the will of the people.
We've had West Bloomfield clerk Debbie Binder on the show quite a few times. She is such a wealth of knowledge, and I was so surprised to find out that a lot of the poll worker volunteers, the ones with the absentee ballots, have to be sequestered. So in this case, that the results could take up to a week. How is that going to work with those employees or those volunteers that do need to be sequestered? I would hope they're going to be getting breaks, because I wouldn't want to stick around with you for 24, 36 hours.
Okay, let's walk that one back again, too. So first of all, a lot of communities, particularly in Oakland County, where you've got the option of centrally counting those ballots, are increasing the efficiency of the process. So it's certainly not going to take a week for every community in the state of Michigan to process the ballots that are in their jurisdiction. But that said, we want to give some of our larger jurisdictions that time and set voters' expectations. Also, in case the machines break down or things occur, we want people to know that the process is working. So that said, in some smaller communities in Oakland County, it may be possible that the absentee counting board finishes even shortly after the polls close on election night. And we anticipate that will happen, as it has happened in communities all across Michigan. We're focused on the statewide total, but certainly locally as well. That process can go quite efficiently. Now, for example, in August, I think it was 9 p.m. when the centralized local absentee counting board in Oakland County was finished with their work for the election. So in addition to that, however, your point about sequestering people for a significant amount of time, the sequestering typically is only during election day itself. So from 7 a.m. or 6 or 5 a.m. on election day till after the polls close. In larger communities, there are going to be shifts where where absentee ballot election workers will come in for a second shift after that, and the original shift can go home. After the polls close, of course, they will be, at that point, have completed their work. The results were already been tabulated, and in many cases, likely already publicly reported. So there's no need to continue sequestering them, but additional people will come in to finish the work and finish the tabulation to ensure the process continues.
And I know, obviously, one of the largest community here in the state of Michigan has been Detroit. They've had issues dating back years, long before even you became the Secretary of State. And I know that Mayor Duggan this year has said, hey, we're going to help out by bringing in city employees to help with this process. But yet the mayor has an initiative on the ballot for a bond for demolition. When you look at that on the surface, is that appropriate for him to allow city workers to come in and help in this process? And could you not get volunteers from outside the city?
So, again, we're going to walk that one back. So in May of this year, we began our statewide recruitment process of election workers all around the state. And in the past several months, we have recruited over 26,000 new election workers, many of whom are appointed in the city of Detroit and all across the state of Michigan. In addition to that, Detroit specifically, we estimate, needs about 4,000 election workers, additional staff to staff the satellite offices, the over 20 satellite offices that will be open for the month of October, and of course, individuals to manage several shifts at the absentee counting board, where we're estimating we'll need about 2,000 election workers there. And then, of course, we need to ensure everyone is trained. Now, I'm grateful to companies like DTE Energy and Quicken Loans and the State Bar Association and many others who've really been a part and joined with us in building a well-educated workforce of election workers who will be trained and ready to do those jobs. It's great also that the mayor has also said the city workers can have the day off. This is just the same thing that the mayors in many other cities, including Atlanta, have done to also provide poll worker needs or fill shortages this year. The Detroit City Clerk decides ultimately who gets placed where, and certainly every poll worker or election worker has protocols to follow to ensure the security of the process and that every vote is counted accurately. So I'm confident that as a partnership with the county, the city, many local businesses and our offices, as well as many of our sports teams. Every sports team in the city of Detroit has stepped up and offered their personnel to serve as election workers, that will be able to meet the need of the city of Detroit and cities all around the state to make sure our precincts are staffed, our absentee counting boards are staffed, our satellite offices are staffed. And I'm grateful for all partners who are willing to step up and offer their personnel to support that.
So as the Secretary of State, you're not worried about there being a conflict of interest with there being such a big bond from the mayor on this ballot?
I'm not sure what you're suggesting, but at the same time, again, I just said we're working to recruit election workers all across the state. And those election workers, those poll workers are committed to ensuring the integrity of the results. We, of course, have rules against campaigning in polling places and outside of clerks' offices. And we're going to be on guard to protect that and also to protect citizens from anyone who may show up to try to disrupt the process in any way. And certainly we'll also be working to ensure every poll worker or election worker follows the strict protocols of their assignment. And we have a significant oversight in that to ensure that there's a secure process at every step of the way.
Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Secretary, just a few more minutes with you. Before we let you go, I do want to touch on other issues that people go to the Secretary of State for, they've been, of course, there have been some delays due to the backlog because of the results of the pandemic, and people are able now to go back in some capacity to their Secretary of State branch offices, and a lot of services are available online. For those that are not able to go in to the offices for those services or able to complete them online for one reason or another, what are other avenues that you suggest for them to prudently and as efficiently as possible work through the issues that they may be trying to solve, or the procedures that they need to go through with the Secretary of State's office while that backlog is being addressed as this pandemic continues?
Well, certainly our offices were shut down for several months, and as a result, the legislature and the governor extended the deadline for expiring licenses and plates until September 30th. Of course, that just passed. We even extended hours in our branch offices to ensure that we were able to address that backlog, as well as other backlogs such as the renewal by mail system, which was also shut down for several months. So according to the data, we've been able to get up and running again and have significantly addressed the backlog, in part also by creating more opportunities, as you mentioned, for citizens to have access to state services without a branch office visit. And in that regard, our partnership with Kroger and Meyer has been key. We've installed hundreds of self-service stations across the state, many in Kroger's and Meyer's, where citizens can get their plates renewed using cash or credit card. They're in multiple languages, and they can get their tabs right there. That ensures that you actually don't need to go to a branch office at all to renew your vehicle tabs in the state, and only a small portion of license renewals require a branch office visit. So for that reason, we want to encourage people to utilize the non-branch office options. We've also upgraded our mailings to citizens, so when you get a renewal, when it's your time to renew, you'll have clear information on what your options are to make the one that's best for you. Our offices, as well as we just announced today, have increased our capacity and appointments to handle appointments for new IDs or driver's licenses, or replacement IDs or driver's licenses, recognizing that many citizens who have moved to Michigan want that ID when they go to vote in person this fall, and we want to make sure that everyone is able to get their ID or driver's license as efficiently as possible.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We know you're on an extremely tight schedule today. We appreciate you and your staff, and really all the Secretary of State offices across the entire state of Michigan. I know they are working so hard to try to get this backlog cleared up. So thank you to you and your team for all that you're doing here for us in the state of Michigan. We wish you the best in this upcoming election. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl alongside Tyler Keefe. This is CivicCenterTV.com.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Thank you for tuning into the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl. here in the studios with Tyler Keefe. We're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, working to bring you long-form, in-depth interviews with newsmakers and decision makers here in the state of Michigan and the greater West Bloomfield area. We're excited to have our next guest on with us. We have three joining us. It's going to be Genevieve Cabadas, Carly Hosley, and Daniel Williams. They are the organizers and co-founders of Students Undivided. We love to have participation from some of our younger generation who are passionate about our community. Thank you all for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Let's see. Wait. Forgot to. Let me unmute you. Are you there? How are you?
Hi, how are you?
This is the world of Zoom. We do it all the time. We've all been going through this. Thank you for being with us. We love having the younger generation on with us. Thank you for having a passion for our community.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, who wants to start? Tell us what Students Undivided is all about.
Yeah, sure. So, we started Students Undivided probably back in June, right around the time of our first protest in Kegel. And it wasn't something that we had thought about doing previously, but we all shared the same passion and, the same want to make a difference and to make a change in our community. So it just seemed right to start the organization, unofficially, but student-led, and just kind of work with each other to put together the protests and, the community events.
So are you all high school students?
We're all college students, actually.
College students. In your high school. Okay. But I think it's so important for people of your age and your generation to get involved and to share your passion to make a change in our communities. And I have to ask, so I live in Kegel. What made you guys pick Kegel Harbor for one of the marches in your protest?
So there's actually two reasons. So I lived in Kegel for about 5 years, and then for the second half of my time here, I've been here for 10 years. I'm right on the border of Waterford and Kegel. But I've spent most of my time in Kegel, restaurants, doing things with friends, that kind of thing. And it's just been a community that I've grown up in, and it felt right to obviously bring it home and to, invite the friends and family and community members that I knew to participate.
I know this is your second protest, and do you want to talk about the first one? I think it went pretty peaceful. What was your experience and your outcome of that one?
Yeah, I think that one went really well for us. We planned it about 2 weeks before, and it was all very quick for us, it felt. It was kind of just hey, let's do a protest. It was during the time where a lot of suburban protests were popping up. I want to say we had about 200 protesters with us, and I would say it all went very well. It was all our first protest for organizing one, so we were very shocked with the outcome, but very pleased with it.
We're joined by student organizers of Students Undivided with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Not one, not two, but three organizers of a protest in the march that will be happening tonight in Kegel Harbor on October 2nd, 4:30 until 7 p.m. So you mentioned the early portions of the movement we saw hit the forefront in the news in the early portions of the summer, and a lot of the suburban protests that did pop up as a result of out of inspiration from many of the more larger cities protests across the U.S. How important is it to bring the issues of these national concerns to the local suburban level, where maybe we don't see it as outwardly as we do in major cities, but these issues are still very much issues in these communities?
It's hugely important. If you're able to bring awareness to your neighborhood, that makes all the difference, because you can reach Sue from down the street, but she might not meet Bob from a different state, right? So it's causing change within your own community and your own people. That spreads awareness, and people can keep on going. So it's cohesive. Also, if you have one joint community, it's home, and it's a safe area for you and for those that you're fighting for. So being able to do something maybe on a smaller scale locally is, I think, if not just as important, maybe like a little tiny bit more important than attending like large city protests, because large city protests, yes, we want that huge protest, like huge support in that city, but we want to bring it home in these small areas that don't get a lot of activism.
Just a couple more minutes with you here on the Oakland County Megacast. How do you plan to take the protest to policy to try to make a long-lasting change?
I would say that it really does start small. I think with people seeing these small protests, they see how serious we are. And these small protests turn into bigger protests. And I think that a lot of the politicians that are seeing this, they understand that this is important. This is something that needs to be done. I think it's just word of mouth is the best way.
Yeah, and sorry.
Oh, no,
We have Senator Bayer joining us, and I mean, it is extremely important because the more that people begin to understand these issues and understand that, even in the suburban communities, they can't just sit back and be complacent with what's happening in this country. They really start to realize that it is about who you vote for, because as much as it isn't political to fight for, the lives that we've lost at the hands of police brutality, it's important to, take that to your politicians who are going to fight for that policy change and who are going to demand that the murderers be brought to justice. So it's very important to, start with the protest and make them aware of how they can enact change through voting and, electing the right people.
I think it's also important to see youth like us do something and take a stand, because it shows that the upcoming generation or the generation now is not going to hear, or it's not standing for this. So we need to see change now. It's not just any change, radical change. It's so important to see young people be active in things like politics, because there aren't too many young politics, you know what I mean? So it starts with like the youth, and we're able to press the message through social media and other ways of communicating.
Joined by organizers of Students Undivided with us today on the Oakland County Megacast, Genevieve, Carly, Daniel, just another couple minutes with you before we will have to say goodbye. Any other information that you would like people to know, or is important for people to know about Students Undivided, about your efforts to raise awareness and have discussions on these issues in our community?
I mean, I would say what's most important to let people know is that, just come out and join us, even if you're kind of on the fence, if, you're not sure that you would exactly fit in, it's important to come out and to hear the message and to start trying to understand what people are, so passionate about. And on top of that, I mean, start anywhere, if it's a discussion with your family members, if it's signing petitions, even if you can't come out, if you're in one of those vulnerable populations and you're really worried about getting COVID, I mean, obviously come out, wear a mask, but if you need to stay home, fill out petitions, try to donate to GoFundMe's fighting for the families of, that have lost people. Right. So, take action in that way and start somewhere, because, you don't want it to get to the point where it's too late.
You gotta have the mindset that you're willing to learn, even if you're not gonna be able to understand maybe these stories or what people go through, because to be frank, you may never understand, but at least you can sympathize and just have the ability to hear someone.
Yeah, and we're really just all about getting the word out there and having people hear us and understand the movement in general, because I think that in these small towns, there is a lot of miscommunication about Black Lives Matter and understanding about that.
Yeah, and do you think that in some of the other protests that have turned violent or looting and things of that nature, that it is taking away from your message of being peaceful?
100%, I think it does. Those riots are really only happening in the big cities, and a lot of those people that are looting and are rioting aren't a part of the movement. They don't actually believe that Black Lives Matter. They don't really care. I think that a lot of them are just trying to incite violence just because and make Black Lives Matter as a movement look bad. So that's why it's really important to have these local protests, because it helps us understand that it's a lot more than rioting and looting and violence.
Well, we thank you so much for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Again, Students Undivided, Black Lives Matter protests taking place tonight in the city of Kegel Harbor. It will also go through Sylvan Lake, 4:30 to 7 p.m. I know you had a good experience the last time with the police chief, as well as some of the politicians there. Also, if you live in the area, we want to remind people, traffic delays are expected as well. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, but thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time, and then when we come back, we'll round out the show speaking with the Oakland County Prosecutor, Jessica Cooper.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Wear a mask.
The ball's in your court, Michigan.
We're excited to bring in our last guest for the Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. First time we are having you on the show. We're excited to have you with us, Jessica Cooper. She's the Oakland County Prosecutor, our Chief Law Enforcement Officer here in Oakland County. Thank you for being with us on the Megacast.
Thank you for inviting me.
So many things have changed in the courthouse during COVID. Can you bring us up to date on where things stand now?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's not just the courthouse. We're attached to the courthouse, if you're familiar, of course, with the campus. But starting in March, basically, we've become a bit of a ghost town. Most of our work is done by Zoom. Not my favorite way of proceeding, but most of the work is done by Zoom. Most of our attorneys, until recently, were off campus. So what I would be here every day, and my chief assistant, and the warrants division would be here every day, and you would have maybe 2 attorneys on the floor and 1 secretary. So we were. You have to understand the nature or the size of our office. We have 95 attorneys and about 80 support staff. So when I tell you it's a ghost town, it's a ghost town. What they are doing, though, of late, is that all of the work, all of the pre-trials, all of the hearings were usually done by Zoom. Now that works very well for Oakland County when they're all together, but the prosecutor's office represents, and when you're talking about the county of Oakland, we have 14 different district courts with different physical locations. And so 10 of those are not county courts. So they're municipal courts. They're funded by the municipalities, but we would be doing the preliminary exams, and we're doing their state law matters. And so it has been a bit of a logistical difficulty, and we finally got it ready and going. And now we are seeing, as this lightens up and as we're able to proceed more, we're seeing more people in our offices, more people in the court. And what they're trying to do right now, at least in Oakland County, is to start beginning to hold jury trials. And they have scheduled jury trials, one a murder on the 24th, and a couple days later they've scheduled another matter. Now, whether that's going to go or whether it's not going to go, they're going to try, and they have a system where they're working to do what is known as a voir dire, where you ask the jurors the questions that are necessary to be part of a jury panel. And I think that the problem that we're all going to see, and you see not only in Oakland County, you're going to see in other counties, you're going to see throughout the country, is that people are afraid. Okay, and no matter what we do, there are going to be people who are afraid. And so when you take, for instance, a murder exam, you would have a very large group of people who the attorneys would question, and that would go so that they could select that jury panel. I don't know that that is going to be physically possible, and I'm not so certain whether or not that will actually occur, but we are going to try. We're going to bring people in, and that's really you would want to talk to the court administrators to see the programs and the ways in which they're trying to do it. It's going to be very cumbersome at first, but we have all sorts of trials that have been backed up for the past 6 months. And whether or not we're going to be able to do it this way, or whether we're going to have to keep tweaking and changing so that the system goes on. I want the citizens of this county to understand that the system has gone on except for the actual physical trials. And those are beginning. And it's going to depend when someone requires, when we have a judge trial, those have been going forward. When you have more likely in the district courts, or when you have a circuit court trial, a felony trial, you need a much bigger, we call it a veneer, which is a group of people who will come in to be examined in terms of sitting as a juror. And so I think our problems are twofold. We're still very insecure and rightfully so, and very careful about that virus. They're going to try and make it clear. They're going to use one floor instead of one courtroom. They're going to keep people separated, and they're going to do it as well as they possibly can. Whether it will work or not, we haven't had our first one yet. I know that it works in other states because I've been in contact with some of my friends throughout the United States, and particularly in Washington State. They're going forward. They've had a series of civil trials, and they have begun now to have the criminal trials take place. So it's a huge operation, and I think it's very different from what I've had for the past 12 years. We will know whether it works or doesn't work. Get back to us after October, because we're not really certain whether or not we're going to get enough jurors.
Oakland County Prosecutor Jessica Cooper with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Just a few more minutes left with you, Prosecutor Cooper. Before we do let you go for the day, let's talk a little bit about the Foundation for Kids. Can you tell us a little bit about that organization, its connection to Oakland County, and what it does for kids in the community?
Well, basically, it started about 12 years ago, and we have something called the Children's Village. And in the Children's Village, there is a cottage known as Mandy's Place. And in Mandy's Place, the children who are removed from very dangerous situations are placed in Mandy's Village. So you have people, young people from all ages, who are either abused or neglected, or in some cases you have a single parent family and the mother gets sick or the mother dies, and the Mandy's Place is supposed to be temporary, and it's supposedly no one stays for more than 30 days. Sometimes that happens that it's 2 and 3 months, but basically it's the holding place before they can find other relatives or they can find foster care, which means that at the holiday time, those are children of all ages. Sometimes they're teens, they're preteens. We've had them as young as 4 and 5 years of age, and they are not fostered out. They don't have family, and they are alone. And as good and as wonderful as the people are at Mandy's Place, those are kids who are alone on the holiday season. So we started out simply with our prosecutors having a luncheon, which we put on, and that in order to come to the luncheon, you would bring a prize or a gift for one of these children. Then over the years, we have refined it so that basically we have a 501c3 organization. We put on a race, we put on a golf outing. And what happens at the holiday time is all of these kids get a change of clothes, because sometimes they're removed from their homes with the clothes on their back. They have nothing. So they get a change of clothes. They have kids there who have never had pajamas and robes and slippers. You have kids there who they don't have access to a computer. So we're running around the county trying to find radios with transistors. Can you believe it? Because there's no access to computer, and they need to stick something in their ear, whether it's to hear music, to relax. We give them books. We give them for the little ones toys. We give them and we put them all in their own size. With their names on it, and then we ask them whether or not they want something specific, and we try very hard to get that. And in any given year, we'll have kids there who are mostly teens and preteens, invisible to the world, unfortunately, and they've never had a Christmas like that. It's turned into these huge packages, and they're individually wrapped, and they've got their names on it, and then sometimes a part of the gifts that we have to give them are toiletries, because in Mandy's place, it's industrial strength. And if you've got teenage girls, they want makeup and they want things for their hair, and the guys want scrub, and being able to have those things. And we're talking about what they want. You're really talking about kids who have been traumatized. They've been taken out of their homes for whatever reason, whether it's abuse or neglect or something horrible has happened to them. They're alone on the holidays, and for them to get presents with their names on it, with their name, with in their size, I don't know who gets greater joy, us or them.
So quickly, I know so many nonprofits are struggling right now to get donations. If our listeners and viewers want to help with this project, how can they find out more to donate?
They can call our office. They can call me. They can call Paul. We are now in transition because we're going to be changing the location. We have a closet full of clothing in different sizes, and we're going to have to transition that to another place under different leadership, because it's a 501c3. We're meeting the person who is literally our president is actually a defense attorney, and his name is Tom Cramner. Our secretary is also a defense attorney, and so we turned it into a 501c3. You can contact me over the next couple of months, or you could contact Tom Cramner, Cranmer.
Jessica Cooper with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the Oakland County Prosecutor, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer here in the Oakland County, and also the first woman to hold the position. And we want to thank you. We have just about a minute left. When you are able to try to have your first jury trial on the 24th, we'd love to have you back on the show to see how that goes. In about 30 seconds time, anything you want the public to know about what you and your team are doing over there at the prosecutor's office?
Again, it's almost so complicated because we have to keep going, and we're not, particularly in the district courts, because those district courts aren't under a central control. So when we're talking about our jury trials in circuit court, we have a circuit court, we have a chief judge. When we're talking about the district court, and the district court is where we get our even greater volume. And you would say between district court and circuit court, we've got 20,000 cases. And being able to do that remotely sometimes by phone, and sometimes now more and more our attorneys are in physically into that courtroom, being able to keep people safe, being able to can you imagine talking in a trial with a mask on? So it's a new experience for all of us, and I'd like to think that it's just us, but it's going on all over this country. And so we're all going to, we reach out to our colleagues all over the place to see who's got a better idea and what works better and what will work better here. And yeah, you probably want to know what happens on the 24th. And if it's the 24th, we've got three more days scheduled.
Well, we appreciate your time so much. We need to wrap it up here on the Oakland County Megacast. It's been a great week here. We appreciate everyone tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast.